What is going on? Welcome to the next episode of the Fit and Healthy Sioux Falls Show. I've got an awesome guest today, Waylon, and so we are going to dive in to all things on how he took 75 hard and changed his life. Let's dive into today's episode. Waylon, what is up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Waylon, when did you and I meet? Do you remember?
Geez, we met through some mutual, like we're always networking, so
yeah,
meet through somebody, but that's probably a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And our kids go to the same school, so
yep. Our kids go to Sioux Falls Christian, and then we got kind of re-engaged actually at I think orientation night this year.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and when I seen Waylon at that orientation night, when I seen you, I'd been following kind of because you were posting some videos about your journey.
Yes.
So why don't we just kind of kick it off there?
Sure.
If you'd be so kind of, will you explain to maybe those watching or listening, what is 75 Hard?
Okay, so 75 Hard is basically a program that Andy Frisella came up with, who owns First Form. He did it to basically get discipline. So it's basically 75 days of 2 workouts a day.
Okay.
1 workout has to be outside.
Okay.
So 45 minutes for each workout. There has to be at least 3 hours between workouts, mainly because you don't want it to be out of convenience and just do an hour and a half workout and call it done. So you do 2 workouts. 1 has to be outside. Does not matter if it's 50 below or 100 degrees. So you do that. And then you don't cheat. You follow a meal plan. You don't cheat. Don't cheat it. Let me think here. So no alcohol.
Okay.
So none of that either. So
progress picture every day?
Progress picture every day.
Okay.
And then you got to read 10 pages every day in a self-help book.
Okay.
And then I think it's been a little while since I've been on it.
Yeah.
So I think is there anything else I'm missing that you can think of?
I don't think so.
I'm used to going through the app. So when you go through the app, you kind of check it all off. And you're like, awesome, on to the next day. So that's,
Yeah. Is that a free app?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm
75.
pretty sure.
Yeah. I don't remember. Maybe
it was like $5 or $6 initially
Sure.
to start it, but for me, I wanted to have the accountability, and that's what I would post every day. Is I would post a picture of this 75 Hard, not because we've all kind of joked about it, like nobody knows you went to the gym unless you take a picture of yourself with a selfie at the gym. Like that's the only way you actually count, burning calories, I guess. But with 75 Hard, I just wanted to stay accountable to myself. And funny story is actually the reason I did it was not even to lose weight.
Really?
The only reason I did is I was feeling very stuck. As a husband, as a father, you start to feel pulled in different directions, and moms, I think, feel it even to the 100th degree from us. But, I just felt pulled in all these different directions professionally and as a father and as a husband, that I just kind of felt stuck and I needed to do something different. And so I talked to my wife about it, said I wanted to do this program. I actually started reading the book in the summer and started feeling convicted. And whenever you're convicted, what do? You put it down.
Yep.
So I stopped reading it, set it down. I said, I'm not ready for that yet, because golf season was in full effect. And I like to have a few drinks when we're golfing. And then, starting in October 1st, my wife was doing a challenge of some sort. And so then I said, well, I'm going to do 75 Hard starting then. And that was my first go about.
That is wild. So how much, I know you said you didn't do it for weight loss, but you happened to lose a lot of weight. How much did you weigh when you started this thing?
So when I started, I was right at 280 pounds.
280.
Yep.
Okay.
So
what are you at now?
About 215.
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, because that's one of the things I remember. I remember seeing you post. Mm-hmm. And I honestly don't feel that you and I really ever had much of a connection other than maybe just met at a networking event.
Yep.
But I remember then we became friends on Facebook because that's what we do these days, right? You meet someone, it's like, we're going to be Facebook friends.
Yep.
And so I was watching your journey and I'm like, this is cool because I actually, Bedros, who is the founder of FitBody, he's actually friends with Ed Milet, who Ed Milet and Andy are business partners in a lot of things. And so I've been introduced kind of to the world of Andy Frisella that way. I've actually never met Andy, but I did get to meet Ed. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I knew about 75 Hard. I've had some friends go through it. I personally have never gone through it. But when I seen you were doing it, I was like, this is I kind of want to watch this.
Sure.
I got interested. I was like, I want to
Yeah.
kind of see, because I'm like, 75 days, 2 workouts a day, no alcohol, all this different stuff. I was like,
Right.
I want to watch this journey and
Right.
see how this goes. And one thing I don't know if we talked about was 75 hard. If you miss any one of those steps
Yes.
if you miss any one of those steps in a day, you start back over at day 0.
Yes. Yep.
And so when you started the first time, did you make it day 0 to day 75?
No. So one other thing I was going to add on there is you got to drink a gallon of water a day.
Gallon of water. Okay.
Gallon of water a day, which I actually thought was one of the easier things, but I've had some other like coworkers and stuff do it, and they said that was the hardest thing for them was a gallon of water. So, but my first go about with it, I made it to day 63.
Yeah.
I forgot to take a progress picture.
Ugh.
Went to bed and woke up in the morning. And the way the app works is if you miss a day or you don't maybe complete everything before you go to bed, like you wake up the next day, it'll say like, hey, did you complete all this or, whatever. And you're like, yeah, I did complete it. And it's like, are you sure? Like you don't want to be lying to yourself because the whole reason that you're doing this is you're doing it to prove, like I did it to prove it to myself that I could do this. Like for 75 days, can I get disciplined enough to just do this program?
Yeah.
And so I got to day 63 and I had it happen a couple times where I maybe fell asleep before I kind of finished everything, but I knew I had it done by like 6 o'clock. So like I knew it was good.
Yep.
But I'd woke up this one morning. We were actually on vacation in Florida with my family. And I'd woke up that morning, went and worked out. Usually I would take a picture in the morning.
Yeah.
But with the house that we were in, it didn't work for me to take a picture in the morning because like this sliding door or whatever was off the track. And so I didn't want to wake my wife up. So I went to the gym. I'd take a picture when I got back. Well, this one morning I woke up, went to the gym, came back, went to take a picture, and it said, did you complete everything from yesterday? I'm like, well, yeah, I did all that. And then it was like, my picture wasn't there, which you can't like fake that. Your picture was either there or not there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it kind of hit me. I walked out to my wife. I said, I made it to day 63. And I think she was more disappointed than me. She offered me a beer for breakfast,
I got to ask, did you take it?
No, I did not. I took like 4 days off and I started again.
Yeah.
So, but I was at the point where I was frustrated. It was the middle of December. I was thinking like, I'll be able to almost finish this thing in Florida. Don't got to worry about the weather back home, all that stuff. And then I forgot to take the picture, and I had friends I was texting, and someone were like, well, did somebody take a picture with you in the background that you can use? And I'm like, well, that's not the intention of this program. It's to follow it and be disciplined yourself. And he goes through in his book, it's actually pretty incredible, but he explains the thought process behind it. Because if you're going to like, if the progress picture wasn't a part of it, like that should be a really easy thing, right? Like a progress picture.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't do the little things because we don't think it means anything. And so we kind of don't give it any thought. Well, he says in this program, it's like, well, that's part of the program.
Yeah.
So if you're going to, kind of slide on that a little bit, you can slide on other areas of your life. And
what else
when it comes
are you
to
sliding
discipline,
on?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that really rocked me. And I took, like I said, 4 days off. And then we were sitting there and my wife's like, well, if we start again, or if you started again, you'd be done before your golf trip in February. I was like, geez, I'm 63 days in, I'm 100 and, 120 workouts in, and I'm, going to start over. And at that point, I probably lost about 30, 35 pounds, something like that. And then just made the decision to start again.
Yeah. That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to you for
Thanks.
starting again, because, right, I mean, you could not,
Mm-hmm.
but then you'd be in the same boat you were in when you started this whole thing.
Right.
And so I remember talking to you too, just a month or so ago. We were at, I think, one of the SME get-togethers. And you had said that you decided, though, that you didn't want to set yourself up for failure with the workouts.
Mm-hmm.
One does have to be outside.
Yep.
But you decided that, and anything counts. So I think you said that you decided to have it be like a walk or something.
Yeah. So I think a lot of us have done this where you want to get back into working out. So you go back in the gym and you're like, well, I used to bench 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And so you get right back into trying to bench as much as you can. You're doing all leg day and all that stuff. And then the next week you're so sore that you fall off. And I knew that I had to last 75 days. So I didn't want to get back into it and start, running 4 miles like when I was doing it. And so I would actually listen to my body a lot. Like, so when I started, it's probably 3 weeks where a lot of my workouts, even like going to the gym, like I would do a lighter workout and maybe hop on the elliptical or, for an indoor workout. And then I would go for a walk or whatnot. And, initially I was maybe walking 2.25 miles, is all. And that was in about 45 minutes. And then I eventually got up to about 3 miles in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I would do a lot of that. And then I eventually started like running and doing part of that too. So.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good point for anyone maybe watching or listening, is that we have to understand that health and fitness and your mind, they're not gone tomorrow. And even if you completely hit a goal with your health, your fitness, or your mind, it can go the wrong way if you stop with it. And so you can't set yourself up for failure. You have to understand that health, fitness, mindset, mental toughness is for the long haul. And so you have to work on it every single day. With that, one of the things that I've been told that really resonates with me is that success is not certain and failure is not final.
Yep.
And so with that being said, like just because you've been successful one time doesn't mean you're going to continue to be successful. And maybe to any of those that have listened, just because you failed at health, fitness, 75 hard, doesn't mean you're going to fail again.
Right.
And that's why you picked it up and you started round 2.
Yep.
And you finished it.
I did.
Have you done it again?
Yes. I actually just finished. So last winter was pretty rough.
Yes.
Because we had a lot of snow and it was cold weather, and that's probably my fault for failing on 75 hard while we got all the snow. But
come on, man.
I came back and we had to, and I started over, and I think it was like right around Christmas. It was like 40 below, and I'm part of a Facebook group for our community or for our neighborhood, and I'm like, some neighbor is going to post something about some weirdo out there walking at 5 a.m. in 40 below weather, and it's going to be me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I had a guy post like, hey, maybe this guy's checking garage doors or something. And I'm like, no, I'm just getting my 75 hard workout in. And I was obviously smart about it. I wore ski goggles. I had no skin exposed or anything like that. But I did that on the coldest days.
Yeah.
And he says specifically in the book, like, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in Alaska or wherever, like, this is part of the program. So we all got to put up with it. Same thing if you're going to do this in, June in Arizona or July in Arizona, it's going to be the same issue, just opposite side. So, so I'd made it through. That was in February, and then I went through the summer, and I think God was definitely with me. Like, there was a reason that I failed that first time, and it was if I would have stopped after 75 days, I don't know if I would have implemented some of the habits that I have today because of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that I basically went through almost 6 months of this, it really helped me establish some really good habits. Even with that though, like through the summer with just like networking events and different things, like I had put on a little bit of weight, but I was like, I knew I wanted to do 75 hard again. Like I want to make it part of an annual thing. And so we did it again. And I think I started as like October 17th and finished it and had a great experience with it. I will say this time I felt like I almost quit more times.
Yeah.
Because the first time I was trying to prove myself I could do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was not about weight loss. I just proved to myself that I could do it. This time it was more about like, I wanted to lose the weight. I wanted to kind of keep up with these habits. And there was a lot of times where I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I don't need to prove this to anybody. Like, I don't need to keep doing this. But my wife was definitely my rock through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great.
And she's kept urging you on.
She did. Yeah. There was a, we had a trip where we had taken our family on this trip, our boys, and we had flown all day, and we had gotten to where we're going to this Airbnb, and I'm like, I got to go for this workout.
Yeah.
Right. And my kids want to go swimming, and I'm like, God, this is just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I should just go play with my kids and not worry about this workout. And my wife's like, it's 45 minutes. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I went and did my workout and came back and
just supported you through it.
Yep.
And I'm sure that mental toughness or that mental thought of, I've already done this. Mm-hmm. Who am I proving it to? Like I proved that I could do it. I don't need to keep on trying to do this, but you pushed through and then you did it. I think one of the things too, actually just before we started shooting this, you made the comment that for you, what you do is you monitor yourself, and you do that monitoring through stepping on the scale.
Yep.
And one thing that you had mentioned, and we've all heard this, and maybe you watching or listening have heard this as well, is that it isn't good to step on the scale every day because it could mess with your mind, and the scale doesn't define who you are. And so one thing that, Waylon and I were talking about is that can be true, but it also cannot be true. Meaning that as humans, we tend to have this like all the way one direction mindset, meaning that it's either all of true or not. And it could be kind of like maybe a slider a bit, meaning that if stepping on the scale does cause negative feelings in your mind, negative feeling about who you are, anxiety and all this stuff, then that statement is for you. And don't let the scale define you. So don't stay on it. But for you, Waylon, you were able to use the scale as a monitor, and you were able to step on it and start to then see every single day if you start to gain a pound or two. And we all know that we do fluctuate, 2 to 4 pounds.
Yep.
But you can start to watch that. And when you've seen a change, then you start to dial it back in.
Correct. And
so was that something that you developed on this journey, was the weighing yourself?
It was. I've been married for 15 years now, and I've been 220 pounds 3 different times because I would follow a program. So I'd follow Whole30, or I'd do like just a different program, a little weight loss program, and you're focused on it for 30 days. And afterwards, you just can't wait to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, or you can't wait to go, gorge out on stuff. And what would happen during those times, I would drop down to 220 and I'd weigh myself. I'd start to see the scale go up. And then, of course, I want to avoid the scale. Yeah. And so I stopped looking at the scale because it's going to show a higher number. And I had heard a friend of mine say this a handful of years ago. He said, I try to manage a few pounds at a time rather than let myself get too out of control, and then I got to manage 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And so that really helped me understand, it is going to fluctuate, but it's a lot easier for me to look at that and say, okay, well, I'm going to dial it in and take a few days to, maybe a week or 2 to get this dialed back in. Because you typically don't gain it all overnight. And so you don't lose it all overnight. And so just kind of having that mindset of just more options or more better options are the way to go, as far as, if you can eat 80% clean or 70% clean, it's better than eating 90% not clean.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And I think that's super important, because understanding these are all tools. The scale is just a tool. If we think about it, we weigh what we weigh. Right now, you weigh the same that you weigh, whether you stand on the scale or not.
Right.
I do too. But for some reason, the way that this world works, we have decided that however I feel right now, which is I'm feeling pretty good. But if I go step on that scale and it tells me a number that I don't want to see, I'm going to then change how I feel. But the thing of it is I was that same weight feeling good.
Right.
So now why do I have to, I'm still that same weight, but I feel bad because now I know.
Right.
And I think that's actually we have this culture of we don't understand how to take feedback.
Right.
That's all that is a single number, is just, hey, this is just your number, but you can still be happy. But now that you have that data point, you have an option to make. You can go eat healthy and do something about it, or ignore it.
Yep.
That's it.
I think the interesting thing about that is as you start to lose weight, initially you lose weight really quick, right? Like if you're going to, if I'm 280, I might lose 30 pounds in a month.
Yeah.
So you're dropping it fast, and then, as you're working out, you're gaining muscle. And so maybe it doesn't drop as fast. And that can get frustrating because you hop on that scale again. There was one point where I think I dropped maybe 2 pounds in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Of no alcohol, drinking a gallon of water, 2 workouts a day. I'm burning 1,200 calories a day, and I'm not taking in more than 2,000.
Yeah.
So it's why am I not dropping any weight? Well, then all of a sudden it was 5 pounds in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's okay, just staying consistent, which everything I've listened to in podcasts and everything that you promote too, it's consistency is key. So if you just stay consistent and don't let those outside influences affect you, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I'm not going to let how I feel in this moment dictate how I live my life.
Correct.
One of the sayings that Bedros actually says, and I don't know if he coined it or if he heard it from somewhere, but it was, don't make a permanent decision on a temporary feeling.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Because to that point, you could step on that scale and it could, let's say you are working out and you are doing the 2 workouts a day, you're drinking the water, and you step on that scale and it didn't go down, you could make a decision off of a temporary feeling to give up.
Yep.
That's a permanent decision.
Yep.
The permanent decision that you just gave up on your health and fitness journey and on all the progress that you have made. And so I think that's super important. And I just feel like there's so many things, as I was talking to you before we started shooting and then, a month ago, that we all have different ways that we go about our health and our fitness journey. And the thing that I love about health and about fitness, I own Fit Body Bootcamp. Waylon, to my knowledge, you have never done a session at Fit Body Bootcamp.
Nope.
And so with that being said, I don't think that Fit Body is the only way a person can do it.
Sure.
I'm very open-minded to knowing that, hey, there's other ways to get fit and healthy. And that's my passion.
Yep.
Because when I was in high school, I was overweight, out of shape, but more important than that, I had low self-esteem, low self-confidence. And so I opened FitBody because I was able to find confidence through health and fitness. And all I want to do now is just help more and more people find confidence through health and fitness. If that's FitBody, let's rock and roll, and me and my team are going to help you. If that's not FitBody, rock and roll. I still want to be able to support you and cheer you on from the sideline, because you know what? There's 200,000 people in Sioux Falls.
Yep.
I want more people in our community getting fit and healthy. And so to that point, where do you work out?
So I usually work out at Great Life.
Yeah.
So we'll do a couple different gyms or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you ever worked like with a trainer, or do you work out on your own?
I have. I've worked out with a trainer in the past.
Okay.
And he actually runs one of the gyms now. And
cool.
And it's funny because I went in there, and it's probably, I can't remember how long I was doing it, maybe about 30 days. I was doing 75 hard. And he's like, dude, I've been following that. He's like, I think me and my girlfriend are going to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I got an extra book. I'll give it to you. So I brought an extra book for him. He read it. And then I think I was in maybe 2 weeks later, and he's like, I got 7 guys that are doing it with me. And it's just kind of like, and that was super humbling for me. And, it's like, I'm doing it because I want to stay accountable.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I start getting people that are commenting like, hey, I'm proud of you, this and that. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say, right?
Yeah.
But then you start to see how it affects other people just by you changing something. Like, I didn't think I was doing anything special. I was just trying to prove to myself I could do this. Yeah. And so when people would reach out and say like, hey, just keep going, like you're doing it. Like, I had friends that when I failed on the day 63, that they didn't want me to stop the habits that I was doing. So like, don't stop doing it. Just keep doing what you're doing, because you've made such progress. Like, they were so afraid of me going back to the other direction. And it's like, dude, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
I shared with you a story that how it impacted a friend of mine, right? Can I
I'd love for you to share that story, because I think that story was awesome.
Yeah, it was super humbling, because I think sometimes we think that we don't, like, what we do on a daily basis doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine that had said, when you first talked about doing 75 hard, I felt inspired that I wanted to do it, but he said that I want to see what you do first. I want to sit back and watch.
Yeah.
And so I did it, for a day, for 63 days or whatever. Well, he decided to start on January 1st to do 75 hard. So he did it, or in the process of doing it, he had finished, and it really changed his life. He didn't have a whole lot of weight to lose anyway. It was more just a mentality part of it. But through it, he decided they wanted to have something else to shoot for. So he said, hey, why don't we run in this half marathon together?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we signed up for this half marathon. I ended up having an injury, so I didn't run in it.
Yeah.
But what was cool through the process, his daughter, who was an 18-year-old senior, had started running with him.
Yeah.
And then said, hey, can I run in this half marathon with you? So she ran in the half marathon with him. And he said, so he comes and tells me, he's like, hey, I just want you to know, like, my daughter, like, just by you doing 75 hard, you've impacted my family, because now I'm spending this time with my daughter who's 18, and we get this like experience together. So they ran the half marathon together. Long story short, the coach at her high school had reached out and said, hey, would you mind running cross country?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I've never ran cross country before. And so he said, well, you just ran a half marathon, you'll be fine. Yeah. So she decided to start running cross country. Well, through that, a college coach reached out and said, hey, who's so-and-so? Like, they're running in cross country with you. Who are they? So they kind of told the backstory, whatnot. Long story short, she gets a scholarship to run track at this college, all because I decided to do 75 hard. And my buddy had explained that to me, and I was like, it kind of hits you,
kind of gives you chills a little
100%. It really tugged at my heartstrings, just say, like, just something simple where I was stuck. And there's probably a lot of people out there that are stuck in just everyday life. And that's where I was at. And I just wanted to get out of it. And just by me getting out of it, it impacted somebody else, and it creates a domino effect. And it's like, how far does that ripple, go? And that's what's pretty amazing.
And you may never know.
No.
The thing about that is that that story makes me have confidence that if you know that story, there's got to be others. And like you said, we don't do it for that. And really that's one of those things where you're right. What you do for yourself obviously directly affects you, but it affects so many people that you may not even know. And so do the best you can do every single day. And if you mess up one day, it doesn't mean you have to give up. You just wake up the next day and you do the best that you can do. But that 75 hard, that showed you that you actually have what it takes, no matter the circumstances, no matter the environment. Here's a list of 5, 6, 7 things that are in your control that no matter the circumstances, you can do.
Yep.
So if everything else hits the fan, here's these things that you actually can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? Do those.
Right.
And I think that is a mentality that you have now built. And I'm sure now, like, things can go probably pretty sideways in life.
Yep.
And you have this developed mental toughness, this developed mental clarity that all this is going bad. What out of it, though, can I actually control?
Right.
And I'm going to focus on that, because we tend to focus on the stuff we can't control.
Right.
And then you're at loss.
Right.
Because you can't control it. And so in every situation, you need to look through it. And I actually did a podcast, this was when I first launched last year, about the 3 C's in life. And this comes from another mentor of mine. His name's Craig Ballantyne. But when life happens, you need to look at it through 3 C's. The first C is look at what's going on. And there are some things that the first C is cope, that you're just going to have to cope with because you cannot do anything about it. So C number 1, cope. The second thing, look at what's happening and control. What are the things that you can control? And then the third C is concentrate on what counts. So if you can run all these negative situations through that filter,
right,
you can now start to pull out the things that actually matter and that you can actually do something about and do that. And that's what you're able to do through 75 Hard, right?
Yep.
Obviously, we meet through networking, and that's how we originally met. And so I do love networking. I love business.
Yep.
Speaking of business, what do you do for business?
I'm in the mortgage business, so I do mortgage loans.
Okay. And where do you do that at?
First International Bank and Trust.
Okay. Is there multiple of those banks in town?
There's one in Sioux Falls. There's a handful up in North Dakota, and then one in Minnesota, and then a bunch in Arizona. So
First International
Bank and Trust.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think like you and a group started another company in town here before that.
Yeah, so there's me and 3 partners. We own Sodak Home Loans.
Okay.
We had grown that. We owned it for a couple of years. We had grown it from, we started with like 10, and we grew up to about 30 people when we decided to merge with First International, which has been a good move. For us, it was more about how do we provide a better service to our clients. Yeah. And so it just gave us more options, and it turned out to be a great move, especially with the rising rate environment, which is another reason why 75 Hard worked out well for me is check on your mortgage lender friends. I'm telling you, the last couple of years have been a struggle for them, and anybody looking to buy a house has been a little bit of a struggle. There's a new mindset with interest rates, and so I think that was a big thing that obviously helped me through it. But we have a great team, and it's awesome.
I think I like what you said. I know I like what you said right there about how you went through this period of rates are going up, and being in a world where you're offering home loans very dependent on a rate because the buyer, the consumer, if that rate gets too high, they don't want a home loan.
Correct.
That can cause a level of stress in your life. You're a provider. You are a dad, a husband, and you want to provide for your family.
Right.
So that level of stress that it put on you, who knows? But the mental toughness and mental clarity that 75 Hard of just doing the small things every day. Because I bet there's times over this last 1.5 to 2 years where rates have been wild. I bet there's been times where, you know what? All I can do today is just focus on what I can control.
Right.
The small things. And I'm going to do that.
Yep.
Because I don't have people coming in wanting to buy homes with these high rates.
Right.
So I think that was an awesome thing to say is like check on your mortgage lender friends. Because sometimes we don't think to, okay, if everybody's being affected by this certain thing, who do I know that might be being affected by it? And could I just say, hey, how you doing?
Right.
And mean it.
And I think that's one of the things why 75 Hard is so important is not even just the workout. I know like that releases endorphins and it helps mentally, but just I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, whatever I had to do that day. I'd have to get my outdoor workout done in the morning. Yeah. Because if I didn't, it just may not get done. Yep. And so I had to get that first workout done. I do my second workout over lunch. And so I'd be done with both my workouts because if I was waiting until I got home, it just did not happen. But I grew to love that 45 minutes in the morning because I would listen to podcasts and I was just getting my mind right for the day. And what a way to start the day. And since I've been done with 75 Hard, I haven't been doing that, and I feel like I'm off. Yeah. And so for me, this morning I went for a walk yesterday I went for a run and the day before was a run, but just getting out
Yeah.
and getting in the fresh air. And it's been awesome in February in South Dakota this year. So,
Yeah.
but just getting out and listening to the podcast and just kind of thinking,
Yeah.
reflecting, like that's stuff that a lot of times we don't, before I would wake up when I had to.
Yep.
And then you're hitting the ground running and you're just busy. Everything's kind of set out for you. So you didn't have that time for self-care to reflect. And so that's what 75 Hard did for me, was help me to provide that time to either meditate or reflect and just have that time with yourself.
Yeah. I would agree with that 100%. Working out, the actual act of doing it, I also don't like it. One of my last podcasts too, I was talking about how it makes you sore. Like it makes you sweat. I don't actually like that, right? And heck, it makes you stink. All these different things. Like I don't like that, but I like knowing that I can do the hard things. I like knowing that, hey, I went and did something today that I said I was going to do. And I kind of have a little bit of that with a buddy of mine right now that's just really helping me, Mick. He's helping hold me accountable. And I traveled for work a couple weeks ago and I got to Miami and I very easily could have, I think I got in at like 3. We had then a all gym owner get together at like 5:30, touchdown at 3, could have very easily got to the hotel room and just went to dinner, rested up a bit and then went to dinner. But instead I'm like, hey, I'm at the hotel now. I'm going to go find the gym. And I got in, I think it was like a 35-minute workout. It wasn't my best workout, but it was definitely better than the workout that I probably would have done had I not had someone helping hold me accountable. Right. But then what you realize through all this is that you can actually hold yourself accountable. And so then you start to develop those habits. And so I just think this has been awesome. Like you had mentioned, you didn't even do 75 Hard for the actual like fitness benefits of things.
Right.
You did it for that mental toughness. And it has been this gateway to more life. Just more life.
Well, not only that, like just it's humbling when I look at my kids and my kids want to do push-ups or they want to do stuff because like I'm more engaged with that.
Let's go.
And so like I have a 5 and a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Turned 6 and 4 coming up.
They're both boys, did you mention?
Both boys.
Both boys.
And so like, the kind of joke about like, hey, who can do the most push-ups or whatever. And so kind of fun with that. But those are kind of conversations we had 2 years. Well, obviously they were younger, but 2 years ago, we would not have been having those conversations. They would not have saw dad do a push-up or a sit-up or anything like that.
Yeah.
And now they see that.
And you know what? They're watching.
They are watching.
They are watching. And it's important to make sure that, you know what? Yes, the words we speak to our kids, the words we speak to others, they matter. But your actions and what you actually do, they matter. Because you can speak anything. And as it relates to health and fitness especially, you can talk about doing it for a long time. You're not going to get any results until you start doing it.
Right.
Kind of putting you on the spot here, I guess, but I'm going to.
Okay.
If there's any health or fitness or mindset advice that you could leave the audience with, where it's just like one little piece or nugget that they could take away maybe from your journey or something that has inspired you, what would you want someone that's watching this episode to take away from today that they could possibly implement that would help them into the future?
I would say, I think most people underestimate the value of even just walking. I have an Apple Watch, and that tells me my resting heart rate. And I didn't realize this at the time. I mean, maybe had it alert me a couple of times that I had a high resting heart rate. Yeah. It was like 80 some, beats per minute for resting heart rate.
Yeah.
And then just by walking initially in the first, I think 45 days, it dropped down to like 60. And so it's pretty incredible what can happen just from consistency in walking. Yeah. What do you burn? 300-400 calories maybe, in just a 45-minute walk. So, just getting out, I think the benefits you see from just cardiovascular is good, but then also like just being out in the air. Yeah. So a walk on a treadmill can be different than a walk outside. And I think a walk outside just to be able to get the fresh air is absolutely amazing what it does for you mentally. So I would say from a health journey standpoint, if you just start out with a walk, it's amazing what that can do. And do not underestimate what that can do consistently.
Yeah. And that can lead to what's next.
100%.
So yeah, don't feel that you need to start big. Don't feel that you need to go all out, but start.
Yeah.
And even 100%. If that is a walk, because it could lead to, because you've done 75 hard now once and did not finish,
Yep.
and twice where you have finished it.
Correct. Yep.
And so it could lead to totally changing your life.
Yep.
But Waylon, I just appreciate you taking the time
thank
to
you.
be here today. I think it was very cool to share that story. The story that definitely stood out to me was how your friend's daughter has now got a scholarship, all because of you doing 75 hard.
Right.
Obviously, lots of other things went
Sure.
into it.
Yep.
But I just think it's amazing. So I appreciate you taking the time. I hope that Waylon's story, you guys, was inspiring to you in a way that shows you that you can start your health and fitness journey with even a walk. So go out today, be amazing. Do me a huge favor though. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this episode. And you already know, we're going to see you next week on the next episode of the Fit and Healthy Sioux Falls Show. Bye, you guys.